Hey everyone, today I'm filming a video discussing my experiences with OCD and the stuff that my OCD has obsessed over. I'm making this because I think it's important to raise awareness of OCD so that people understand what it really is, and to also show the diversity of it, because the obsessions that I say that I've had, when I talk about my experiences, there's probably many people in the OCD community who do not have these obsessions, yet at the same time there are probably many other people who do. So we're all very different, and if you are one of the people who do relate, then I hope that it helps you feel less alone, as I know it was really helpful to me to hear about people's OCD experiences when I was going through it. So yes. Anyway, the first thing my OCD really obsessed over, the biggest obsession, was egocentrism, being egocentric. I was basically fearful of being narcissistic. This was one that lasted actually quite a long time, and it doesn't seem like much, but I would go in my mind, and it was a mental compulsion. I'd just say, I am normal, I am equal to everyone else, and I'd just say that over and over again in my mind. And I would get anxious when I was going out, because I would look at people and I wouldn't be able to tell if I was equal to them or not. Because OCD creates a lot of uncertainty, and it makes it feel like the most important thing is getting an answer, getting that certainty, otherwise it makes you feel like a really horrible person. And there were times my OCD kind of convinced me that I was narcissistic, even though I'm obviously not, but it kind of convinced me of that and made me feel really bad about myself, and it wasn't very nice. OCD can sometimes convince you of these sorts of things. But yes, that was my obsession that actually lasted a really long time. And I also had this mental compulsion where I would create this sort of thing in my mind where I would imagine loads of people sitting together and I'd kind of level myself out with them. That was one of them as well. So that was a big thing. I had a lot of narcissistic-like intrusive thoughts, but obviously intrusive thoughts are ego dystonic, so it wasn't me doing them. I think in the beginning that created a lot of distress, but then I realised they're just thoughts, like mental tics, and I let them happen. So a lot of people can't do that if they're too anxious. That for me, that took medication to do that, but yeah. The next one is gratitude. Gratitude was an obsession. I am naturally a very grateful person, and when I talk about gratitude on this channel, like I've made a couple of videos on gratitude, they are genuine. However, when my OCD was making me actually fearful of not being grateful, it wasn't very nice, because I'd have to write lists of the things I'm grateful for. I couldn't feel like I'm complaining, and it was really hard because it made me feel like I have to be happy all the time, but I was experiencing depressive symptoms and extreme fear and anxiety, so I couldn't be happy all the time, so it made me feel really guilty for that. And I remember saying, like, I don't know if I can forgive myself, even though obviously I can now, because I know that you don't have to be happy all the time, but my OCD was kind of pinning to that gratitude thing. I didn't want to be ungrateful, and yeah, I was writing those gratitude lists and stuff, and just trying to see the good in everything, which is a great thing, but when it becomes obsessive to the point where you feel guilty for struggling, then it isn't a good thing. The next thing is relationships. Relationship OCD is something I have experienced, thankfully not for a long time, but this was in the beginning of my flare quite a bit, before the antibiotics and stuff. But what happened here is when I started dating my boyfriend, I think 3 days before my PANDAS flare really exploded. It's great timing to get into a relationship, by the way. But my my symptoms did kind of make me doubt our relationship. I remember thinking as an intrusive thought, like, do I really like him or do I like his friend? And obviously I know now that is false. I don't like his friend. Well, obviously I like his friend, but not in that way. But it was making me doubt everything. Everything was so uncertain and nothing made sense anymore. And also I remember I was feeling like it wasn't the right relationship, which it is. That wasn't me thinking that, it was the OCD. It doesn't, having relationship OCD doesn't make you like unloyal or anything, but I was writing in a journal trying to figure out whether he was the right person for me. And that's a big relationship OCD thing, as well as researching online and taking relationship tests. I think I did that as well. The next one is the fear of my thoughts coming true. Obviously this is a huge OCD thing in general, but this was a really big thing because I had been reading about the law of attraction. If you have OCD, please do not read about law of attraction. It's going to make things worse. I took it very literally. Because I was in a flare, of course I'm going to take it literally. My thinking had changed, it was really rigid, but yeah, it was awful. This was actually the worst one. It's also known as magical thinking, if you think if you feel like your thoughts could potentially come true. It, it wasn't delusional for me, but I remember saying that it felt kind of delusional because I was almost convinced that my thoughts could come true, and that's the point where I was crying to my mum saying I wanted to be put into a medically induced coma because it was really bad. I thought I was going to be responsible for really bad things happening, potentially evil things happening in the world, potentially the end of the world. I thought that I thought that I was just gonna make myself ill as well. Like, these thoughts, I thought I was gonna be responsible for all these horrific things happening, and that is beyond terrifying. But that is OCD. The next thing is intention checking. This is a big OCD thing. I would worry about doing things because I was worried that I wasn't having pure intentions. But realistically, if you worry about having pure intentions, then you probably have pure intentions. But at the time, I was just really reluctant to do things. Like, I wouldn't share things on my Facebook because I'd be like, what if I'm just trying to do it to look good, rather than just being, doing what people do. I was really worried about being service to self, which is, again, a spiritual thing. This is because I had, I don't know how to pronounce it, scrupulosity, I think it is, and then / morality OCD. It was about spirituality and doing the right thing, though. Usually scrupulosity, I think it is about religion, but mine was about spirituality because I don't have a religion. But yes, that was a big obsession, and it made me really reluctant to do things. Thankfully, I with medication, with the antibiotics, after the antibiotics, I got to the point where I obviously do want to be in service to others, but I'm not gonna not do things that could potentially actually help people because of that fear. So thankfully I've got to that point now. But yeah, intention checking was a big thing. The next one was the fear of having a serious illness. Now, this was one that happened very early on. I had a lot of reassurance seeking to my mum, and I was looking stuff up on my phone, and my mum was like, I'm gonna have to take that phone off you because you're fueling the OCD cycle. But it's because at the time I was losing my coordination, I was losing my sensation, my pupils were dilated. I was worried that it wasn't PANDAS. I was worried that it was something more serious. I don't even think at the time I really accepted I had PANDAS, but I was worried it was something more serious because all these horrible neurological symptoms I was having, and I was absolutely terrified. I was convinced I was going to die. But I remember asking my mum reassurance, like, do I have cerebral ataxia? Do I have anti-NMDA receptor encephalitis? I was asking my mum reassurance on all these things, because those are the things I was really afraid I had. I was afraid I was gonna die and stuff because of that. But yeah, that wasn't very nice at all. Okay, this one I'm not going to go into too much depth about, but I had another obsession where I would worry that beings not in this realm, like spiritual beings, would be angry at me for doing the wrong thing. This was just something that made me feel very guilty, added to the depressive symptoms. I felt like I'd let everyone down. Another thing was the fear that I wasn't going to do things in life that I was supposed to do. I wasn't going to succeed in life. I wasn't going to do what I was born to do or whatever. I was having this really rigid thinking where it was like the butterfly effect taken to an extreme. It felt like if I did one wrong move, like one thing wrong in what I'm supposed to do, then my whole life would be ruined because I wouldn't go down the right life path or something, and then everything would be worthless, which is ridiculous because life is not that rigid. It was really irrational, but of course that's OCD. It wasn't my fault. It was what my brain was making me think at the time. But life really is always ever changing. There isn't one set path we have to go down. One mistake is not going to ruin everything. It's just a slight little thing, but at the time it just blew things way out of proportion. And the next one was the fear of attaching myself to an identity. This was again linked to the first one, like ego thing, because this was like spiritual related OCD. I was afraid of being too attached to my ego, and that meant that I had, if I did not want to refer to myself as an advocate because I felt like that was identifying with something, and my mind labelled that as bad. But obviously now I'm better, so I'm allowed to say that I do something because I know it simply does explain what I do, and I still know that I'm the awareness behind this form. And yeah, but basically I remember I was doing a Tourette's awareness thing, and just before it, I got really anxious because I was like, if I'm doing that, does that mean I'm identifying with the advocate thing? And also at the same time, the other first obsession was going in, like, do I think I'm better than these people? It was like that and stuff. And then I remember I had this compulsion where I'd go like that, and my arm would move because it was me trying to push away the thought. That was a compulsion. So yeah, and I remember I was really afraid of identifying with my own name at one point. I imagined my name like a name tag above of me, and then I remember trying to unthink my own name, I think it was, or something. I don't remember that well, but I was trying to either unthink my name or just think that I am not Romeo, I'm the awareness behind this form or something. It was very strange. The next one was the fear of not being loving. I felt really guilty all the time and in this time due to the OCD and depressive symptoms making a big cluster of horribleness. But yeah, I was worried about not being loving. I'd felt like I'd let everyone down. I felt like I wasn't a loving person. And I had a compulsion to go, I'm a lover, I'm a lover, I'm a lover, I'm a lover. And I was saying that over and over again. That sounds very strange, but it was me. Originally it was me saying I am love, but I got really embarrassed saying that over and over again, so I kind of morphed it into that so people couldn't tell what I was actually saying. So yeah, there was that, and yeah. I was just really afraid of not being loving towards people. I didn't want to be a hateful person. I didn't want to be a horrible person. And my morality aspect of my OCD was making me kind of say that over and over again to reassure myself in a way that I am loving. Emotion checking. Emotion checking, I had quite a bit. It was really, really weird though, because at this time I couldn't really feel my body properly. It was like my body wasn't my own. I was just, I was really numb. I couldn't coordinate myself. My awareness was fully in my mind. I would zone out from what's going on around me. So I'd kind of like try and feel the feeling in my body, and I couldn't feel what emotion I was feeling. It wasn't very nice. It was horrible. But yeah, I was obsessing over the feeling I was feeling because again, literal thinking. PANDAS makes me very literal. I'm not that literal anymore because I'm better now, but I was I had read something about like to heal you need to feel your feelings. So I was literally like trying to literally feel my feelings. I was trying to figure out what I was feeling, and then I would literally sit with it. You know, they say sit with it. I would literally sit. Another one is the obsession with being mindful. This was horrible because my OCD caused a constant train of thoughts, but then the mindfulness obsession made me feel really guilty for that. And I was also like kind of dissociated. I felt very dissociated at the time, and I had just a constant stream of thoughts, and it wasn't me doing it. No matter what I focused on, no matter how I was doing anything, it was always there. So it was really frustrating, and the mindfulness obsession made me feel like a horrible person because I could not clear my mind. It wasn't actually possible at the time, and that was really frustrating because I felt like a bad person. But yeah, that was one of them. And to be fair, one of the aspects of that is quite funny, to be fair, because where they say watch your thoughts in like meditation and stuff, my eyes would actually move. I would literally watch my thoughts. You know, rigid thinking was a big part of my PANDAS, PANS and OCD, so that was it. The next one is the obsession with time. I had a bit of an obsession with time where, I would really worry about whether I was doing something too fast, I think it was. It was quite strange because again, this was the spiritual OCD. You know, I didn't want to rush things because I felt like that was unspiritual. My mind was labeling it as that. So I was going, like obsessing over how fast I was doing things, and then I came to the awareness of why time is an illusion, and I then had to repeat in my mind over and over again for about 5 hours a day, like time is an illusion because this, that, whatever. It was a really long script in my mind that I had to keep repeating for 5 hours, and people couldn't really see that I was struggling, but in my mind I couldn't focus on anything. I was just really anxious. It was horrible. The next one was a fear of forgetting. The fear of forgetting was, I think I remember reading an article, and I think I had like a pen. I was trying to jot it down so that I didn't forget it and stuff. This was also really bad though because PANDAS causes memory issues, so I had memory issues anyway, and I remember trying to bring things into my mind again and again to see if I remembered them, because it felt like if I would forget them, then I would have failed in life. I wouldn't be learning what I'm supposed to learn. This thing, I'm not entirely sure if it is OCD or not, because this specific thing was not in a PANDAS flare. My PANDAS flare, so far, all of the things that I mentioned happened at the same time, just a big mess, because I had an infection, and a lot of it got better with antibiotics. But this one was one that wouldn't be classed as part of an OCD diagnosis, because again, it didn't take up like an hour of my day or anything. But this is an OCD trait that my friend pointed out quite a long time ago. I used to reread food labels again and again and again and again and again, and my friend did point out that there's probably an OCD thing, but that wasn't related to Panda. I actually think what that was that I was so anxious of consuming food sensitivities, because I had so many food sensitivities. I was so anxious about consuming food sensitivities because I didn't want my symptoms to go back to how they were before, all the severity and tics and stuff. So I was rigidly checking, rereading labels again and again and again, even if I'd just read it, because I was afraid of having a reaction. I realised that that probably isn't quite the typical thing to do, so I think I was just really anxious about consuming food sensitivities. Next one is quite a funny one. Like, I would repeatedly check my Facebook friends to see if they unfriended me. I don't do that anymore, thankfully. But at the time, it was because I was so afraid of someone leaving me and not wanting to be my friend. I didn't want to do something wrong. I love my friends, and I was so worried that they would just leave. Obsessions. I also had intrusive thoughts that I don't think were really related to a compulsion as such, but I had what I termed opposite thinking, which was really the first thing I actually noticed that something was going wrong. Something was strange in my mind. But I would look at people and think horrible things about them, like the opposite of what I wanted to think. I'd look at people I love and think horrible things about them. I remember thinking, like, I'm happy that horrible thing happened to them and stuff, but it wasn't me thinking it, so it was really, really confusing. It felt like there was someone else in my mind at that point. So that was really scary. I was thinking that, and it wasn't something I could really brush off because it was happening pretty much all the time. I also had the fear of things manifesting. Again, this is the same sort of thing as the thoughts one, but sometimes I would avoid songs and I would avoid reading things in case what I read came true, or in case if I was listening to a song, if the lyrics said something, I was afraid that would come true as well. So that ties into the whole law of attraction thingy that I was I wouldn't say that was an obsession, actually. I wouldn't say law of attraction was an obsession. I would say it's something that actually exacerbated the OCD, because it was fueling it, saying, like, if it was actually kind of proving to me, like, if I don't do the compulsions, then these things will happen. And it was fueling my anxiety to such an extent where I started to believe the intrusive thoughts. So when I said to when I stopped looking into the law of attraction, and I said to people, I don't feel comfortable discussing it like that anymore. People really understanding, and it made a huge difference. It brought my anxiety down, because now I can most of the time just brush off thoughts, knowing that they're not going to become true. People with OCD for years can spend thinking intrusive thoughts about getting ill, getting a horrible disease, and then they never get it. So it's not like that, thankfully. I think I also just had an obsession with, like, doing the right thing all the time. Again, that's a really big morality thing. But if I was to react to something, especially because I had so much irritability at the time because I was in a flare, I was trying to be super nice all the time, even though it was so hard. And because I was scared of being mean to people, and if I did explode, like, there were times when I exploded because I had a lot of emotional regulation. I felt like it was the worst thing in the world. I felt like I was evil because my OCD was convincing me of that. So yeah, that's like the perfectionist sort of OCD and morality bit there. Once, when I had that fear of doing the wrong thing, I lied once. Basically what it was I had just got into my relationship. Someone asked me if I had a boyfriend. I said no, because I wasn't comfortable saying it yet, because I just got into it. But then I was so angry at myself for lying, because my OCD was making me do the right thing, so I couldn't lie. I couldn't be attention seeking. I couldn't, well, whatever it perceived as these things, I couldn't do anything bad, basically. But I remember one time I lied, and then I spent, I think, hours just ruminating, being like, why did I do that? I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I would also apologize in my mind quite a lot, and I'd pray in my mind as well. Um, I was so guilty for having compulsions because I felt like it was my fault that I had this. I felt like if I just stopped the compulsions, I'll be fine. But I felt like I couldn't because I was so terrified. So then I ended up being really angry at myself and frustrated because, you know, I was doing the compulsions and felt like I couldn't stop it. It was very out of control and there was guilt, and yeah, it's not very nice. So I really, with the thoughts I had, the intrusive thoughts, some of them sounded like there was someone else in my mind, and I wasn't delusional, so I knew it wasn't. I knew it wasn't someone else in my mind, but it felt like that, and there was someone in my mind, someone, I knew it wasn't real, but it sounded like someone in my mind saying, you're a worthless piece of something. It was just insulting me, basically, and it was saying horrible things, it was bullying me, and I had to try and argue with it. So I was arguing with it in my mind. These constant, you know, mental compulsions, where I would argue with the voices in my mind, even though I knew they weren't real. I would, what else would I do? Yeah, I would affirm over the intrusive thoughts. That was the big thing with the fear of the thoughts coming true. I felt like the only way to stop them from coming true was to keep affirming over them, but the thoughts were coming so fast that I couldn't keep up with it. I think I had intrusive thoughts like every second or more. It was horrible. But that was a point where I was like crying to my mum, saying like I wanted to be put into a medically induced coma, because I couldn't keep up with it. So I thought these things are just going to happen. I can't do my job and stop it. But yeah, that I could, because there was so much going on in my mind, I couldn't focus. And I remember trying to watch a film, and I was trying to watch a film to relax, but I did not take any of it in at all. As the whole time I was just completely stuck in my mind. I hope that watching this can allow people to understand the impact that OCD really has on people. It's not about being neat and meticulous, although of course some compulsions do make you straighten things and make things neater. The difference is they're not done because they're satisfying, they're done because they have to be, and it's distressing. It can take loads of time out of your life. But yes, and also if you have OCD, if you relate, then I really do hope this helped, because I know how much it actually really helped me when I read about people's experience or watched videos about it, because at the time I was going through this, I didn't really know what was going on. I was so confused, and reading about people's stories or watching people's stories made me feel really alone, because then I realised this really isn't my fault. Other people have had these sorts of compulsions and thoughts, so it really isn't me. So I feel like learning about your OCD can sometimes be really helpful in allowing you to know that it really isn't you, and I hope that this does help someone. I really hope that it helps people feel less alone, and yeah, thank you for watching.